Welcome this evening. Very, very, very nice, beautiful evening here in Australia for those online here. We have a full moon out there. Have you seen the full moon out there? Very, very beautiful. So for Buddhism, of course, full moon is a very significant event because we remember that the Buddha was enlightened. He was born, enlightened, and passed away under a full moon. They say the same month, not the same year, of course. It would be a very quick life. It'd be over before you knew it. We would never have heard of him. But this full moon actually commemorates the first council where the Buddha's teachings were recited 3 months after he passed away. So if you count 3 months from May, that's when the Buddha's parinibbana, passing away, was. This is the time that the first council would have met, and there was 500, they say, arahants who came together to recite the Buddha's discourses and also the rules, the vinaya, that the Buddha had laid down for the monks and the nuns. So it was a very important occasion for Buddhism. And very interesting, today I was thinking, maybe there were some bhikkhunis in those 500 arahants, because there were quite a few enlightened nuns, they're bhikkhunis. So it could well be that is the case. So, and also it was the occasion that Venerable Ananda, he became fully enlightened. Venerable Ananda was the assistant to the Buddha for 25 years. He looked after him, and it was on that. And he was feeling a bit sort of shy because all the rest of the gathering was fully enlightened. He wasn't, and so he was practicing very hard. And then nothing was happening. Then he thought he'd take a quick nap, and as he lay down on the pillow, put his head down, he became enlightened. So many people think that's the way to become enlightened. But I don't know about you, but I've laid my head on a pillow many times and nothing like that happened. But it's the effort beforehand that's important. So it was also they say the full moon that we commemorate the enlightenment of the Buddha's son, Venerable Rahula. So all these occasions for this full moon. So, and of course in Sri Lanka it's a holiday. Isn't that nice? That would be nice if we had a holiday, but I think that's a long time coming. There we are. So I was going to ask, yesterday I taught, I was giving a teaching about one of the Buddha's, one of his teachings on loving kindness or kindness, friendliness, from a sutta, a teaching, a discourse that he gave, which is called the Metta Sutta, or the Karaniya Metta Sutta, often called that too, in which he outlines how we can develop metta. And of course, the basic outline of that sutta is that we need to develop our ethical behaviour, our good qualities, develop those as support for metta, and then we should also extend that loving kindness or friendliness to all beings without exception. And he goes into a long list, and then he talks about how we can do that. First of all he talks about wishing in gladness and safety, may all beings be happy. And then he talks about things that can block metta, the negative states of mind. And then he talks about radiating it completely over the entire world, filling the whole of the mind with metta. And then he talks about wisdom at the end of the teaching and enlightenment. So it's a full teaching, really. But so I thought, what story shows the power of the Buddha's metta, his loving kindness, his friendliness? Anybody have any idea? I've taught this before, so that's a hint. Anyone remember? Famous story where the Buddha used his loving kindness in a very powerful demonstration. Do you remember? It's a very famous story, actually. What could it be? No. Do you remember the story of Nalagiri? Look, I think nobody's registering that either. What is he speaking about? This is the name of an elephant called Nalagiri. And this story actually, I think it's good to emphasise that it actually comes from the Vinaya. This is the rules of the Buddhist monks and nuns. And so it is very likely to be quite authentic. The details, maybe not so, because a lot of stories we have, you don't know how authentic they are. They've got a chance of being authentic. Some of them are fantastic stories, whether they're authentic or not. So, but this story is quite a marvellous one. And it comes from the Mahavaga, which has got a collection of some of the early teachings. The first 3 teachings of the Buddha are in the Vinaya too. So this is very, very it commemorates the fact that these teachings were very important, very significant. And at that time of this story takes place, the Buddha's cousin, you've heard of Venerable Devadatta, he had planned to take over the Buddhist Sangha, the monks and nuns, become the leader, replace the Buddha, because he said to the Buddha, "You're getting old, and we need some young blood." Me. And of course that's not a very good quality. It's ambition, really, isn't it? And of course later on the Buddha mentions that he doesn't own the Sangha. He doesn't control the Sangha. He's an inspiration, a guide for the Sangha. But so he doesn't consider himself as the controller of the Sangha. And because Devadatta was really upset that the Buddha didn't say, "Great, I want to retire." This is handing over the keys to him. He didn't do that. He told him he was very unsuitable, and he got even more upset. And then he tried to assassinate the Buddha. Isn't that amazing, to try and to assassinate a Buddha? And so he had a number of plots, and you can read about them in the discourses and in the history books that we have that come down to us. And in this story, he hit on this idea of using an elephant to kill the Buddha, because the king, he had a stable for elephants. They used these elephants in war and on ceremonial occasions, and in Sri Lanka still do. Not for war, ceremonial occasions. And so he thought, if an elephant, there was one of the elephants that was really renowned for being fierce and had killed people, and this was Nalagiri. And so he went to the elephant keepers, and he said to them that if they could help him out, they could be promoted, or they could get a raise in their salary. And so these elephant keepers decided that they would help him, and the idea was that they would open the gates of the elephant stalls, and then they'd probably enrage the elephant, this Nalagiri, and drive him out onto the road, the street in front of the stables. Stables, that's the word, and then, when the Buddha was coming, the elephant would rush out and crush the Buddha. That was the idea. Pretty nasty, isn't it, really? And so this was the idea. And some of the stories, and this happened in a place called Rajagaha, in a famous place in the Buddha's life, really. And I will be going there at the end of the year. I have been there before, actually, a couple of times. But it's a great place, and it was a very favourite place for the Buddha too, because he had a kuti on the top of this mountain, stone kuti, very remote, and he really would have enjoyed that. And so the idea was, as I said, they were going to enrage this elephant. And there are some stories that say that they beat him and also gave him alcohol. But the account in the rules of the monks and nuns, the Vinaya, doesn't mention that. And so, but nevertheless, what happened? And those extra details may come from other sources, commentaries to the Dhammapada, famous collection of Buddhist verses, verses of the Buddha really. And so that the Buddha was going on his arms round collecting food, came out, he was going down the street, and of course they opened the stable gates and drove Nalagiri out, and he's coming out with big ears. You know, when elephants get agitated, their ears really go, and they really look like they're serious business is about to happen. And so the elephant started to charge, and all the bystanders, particularly the monks, but also the lay people, saying, "Please, please, move out of the way, move out of harm's way." And the Buddha said 3 times, evidently, that no one could kill a Buddha using violence, that the Buddha would pass away peacefully in parinibbana. I don't know, it's amazing, isn't it? That sort of fact or that sort of information. So he stood his ground. And in some of the stories, his assistant, Venerable Ananda, got in front of him to protect him. He'd be the first one trampled. And instead, in these stories, it's not in the Vinaya account, the Buddha said to Ananda, "Please stand aside, there's no problem." And that elephant started to bear down on the Buddha, and his ears waving and very agitated, very angry and upset. So what did the Buddha do? He started to radiate loving kindness, this friendliness towards the elephant. And they say, as he was radiating it, the elephant slowed down, slowed down, slowed down, and came to a stop in front of the Buddha and actually got down on his knees. This has been amazing, isn't it? Got down on his knees and blew dust over his head and everything. And the Buddha patted him and actually mentioned to him that it's not good to harm a Buddha, not good to harm spiritual people, because the result would be very bad karma, very bad destination. And so then the elephant, after that, got up and started to back away from the Buddha and go back to the stable. Completely, that anger completely quelled. Pretty amazing story, isn't it? And it's quite the power of a Buddha's metta, or loving kindness, friendliness, is enormous. And so, and then actually some of the people said, they say it recited it. I can't imagine on the occasion they said recited it, but this is how it came out. "Some are tamed by sticks and with goads and whips. Without stick or sword, the great sage tamed that elephant." So and of course, after that, no surprise, Venerable Devadatta's reputation went down, the Buddha's reputation went up, so as you would expect. So I thought I'd do a guided meditation using this theme, actually, to develop metta or maitri, that we can visualize that we are going to where the Buddha lived, on this mountain. It's called the Vulture's Peak. If you go there is a rock that actually looks like a vulture. And when I saw that, that's why they called it Vulture's Peak. Yeah, it does. And as you go up, it's quite high. It's quite a climb, actually. I'm wondering if I can manage it this time. I'm a bit older and than I was the last time I went there. And then we can imagine that visualize that we're sitting in front of the Buddha's stone kuti, and he is meditating outside. And we sit down, we bow down 3 times and sit in meditation. And then we can visualize that the Buddha is sending this golden light. Often they have golden light for metta. You think it should be pink, really, or something like that. Anyway, golden light, and radiating it to us and filling us from head to toe with this metta, this maitri, this loving kindness and friendliness. And it's filling us with this warmth and incredible acceptance, kindness, ease, friendliness, of course, safety and security. This is one of the qualities of metta. It's great for when we are afraid, these qualities. This quality of metta is really great for that. And of course, peace too, it brings up peace. So this is a visualization that we can do. And then we can get in touch with that feeling, if we do indeed experience a feeling of this kindness of the Buddha, like we are Nalagiri, that our minds and our hearts, our emotions calming down, and then we can use that, spread that within ourselves and feel it. We usually feel this feeling of metta, maitri, friendliness in the chest area. So this is form the meditation will take. And so one of the nice things about this meditation, is that oftentimes people think they can't do metta. But if they think of the Buddha having this loving kindness for all beings, it doesn't discriminate, accepting all beings and filling us with this loving kindness, it may be a good way to start that feeling within us. So this is one way of doing. Visualization's a great way of doing it, I feel. There's also, you can use words. A lot of people use, may I be happy and well, or may you be happy and well, may all beings be happy and well, that sort of approach. And that can work too, if those words are meaningful. But you have to find good words to bring up that emotion. But this visualization, quite a helpful one. And of course, Ajahn Brahm, this is where I link it to Ajahn Brahm. He very creative. He taught about this Nalagiri strategy. And the Nalagiri strategy is when our mind is out of control, when it's gone berserk. He calls it when there's a 5 hindrance attack. And we need to deal with this. And this, of course, is when we can give this kindness to the states of mind we are experiencing. Because usually when we're experiencing anger, when we're experiencing fear, anxiety, worry, depression, our usual reaction is, get out of here, I don't want this. We push it away as much as possible. We resist. But if we can use kindness towards us, this friendliness towards us, it allows those emotions to settle down and they can disappear. So this is the idea behind the Nalagiri strategy that Ajahn Brahm had. When our minds are really running berserk, as they can, and so out of control, and then to have this kindness towards our minds and those emotions that we would normally reject, just to have this kindness, this softness towards them. So this is the strategy. And when we do that, it's like a balm or a medicine for the mind, actually, and allows these things to dissolve in their own good time. So all these negative emotions can be dealt with in this way. And of course, when we have this kindness and friendliness, when we develop it, we're not the only beneficiaries. The people around us will experience it too. So always when we think about meditation, whatever meditation, the benefits we get, we will share with those around us just by the fact that we've got that quality, we've got that emphasis in the mind. So it's very, very useful, because sometimes people say, oh, meditation, so selfish. It's only for that individual. But it isn't. It isn't. It's really for those around us too. So this is a very good way to deal with the negative emotions that we can experience. And of course, it's very, very important we are on good terms with ourselves. We live with ourselves 24/7. And so to be on good terms with ourselves is so important, actually, and to be able to accept ourselves as we are, with all the imperfections, and still be kind, knowing that these things can change, and they can change better when we have this kindness. Because oftentimes we try and use willpower, and willpower can just make things even worse. So this is a very important quality to develop. And of course, when we develop this kindness, this friendliness in our minds, it connects us with people. Even though they may not be here, we feel close to them. And oftentimes we can be close to people if we have no metta, no friendliness, no kindness in the mind. They can be, it's like they're a million miles away. They're not on our radar, as it were. So this metta is this friendliness and kindness. It's something that can connect us and bring us close to others. And of course, I used it a lot when I was living on my own in a cave in Sri Lanka for 8 years. You have to be on good terms with yourself, and this is a very important ingredient. I'd never felt, very rarely anyway, felt lonely because of this metta. I always felt close to people, keeping them in mind. Oftentimes we don't keep people in mind, then they can be close, but they're not in our mind. So this is important. And I like this saying. I use it every time with when I teach metta or loving kindness, friendliness. And it is, if we want to be loved, we may not be. But if we want to give love, who can stop us? Isn't that a great saying? That's from an Indian sadhu, I suppose you'd say. He's Gao Gopal Das. He's on the internet too. I saw this little video clip of that, and that was great. I thought, very good saying. If we want to be loved, we may not be. But if we want to give love, who can stop us? And in actual fact, if we want to give love, if we develop metta, we have what we're looking for often from others. We're all looking for acceptance, approval, all these affirmation from other people, from outside ourselves. But if we develop this quality of friendliness, kindness within ourselves, we have it. And so we're not so needy, and then our relationships can be much, much better, not based so much on being needy. And then this metta, this maitri, this friendliness can really be something that really draws others, actually. Somebody that has this quality will have a lot of friends, really. They really will, because it'll draw people. They feel safe, and they feel the kindness of this person. And we can all do this. We can all develop this by repeating, developing it, seeing the value in it, and eventually it just becomes part of our character. It's not that. I know sometimes people say, oh, I'm not the loving kindness type, or I'm not the... Well, people don't say they're not friendly usually, but loving kindness, they might think this is a bit exotic. But friendliness and kindness they can relate to. But of course, we can develop these emotions. So then some people will say, is that natural? Isn't it a bit artificial? And of course, it may feel like that a little bit to begin with, but because it's coming and connecting from a genuine feeling within ourselves, and we're just encouraging that feeling, metta is a feeling, then it will become more and more natural, become more and more familiar, and will become more and more a part of our character, a good part of our character. And then also the negative qualities, if we're an angry type of person, fearful type of person, anxious type of person, tend to reduce, because this gives a very feeling of security, of safety, of well-being, actually. So this is the introduction to the Nalagiri strategy for tonight, that we have this meditation. So now we can start the meditation. So I think that will be good. And there we are. And so we can close our eyes if we wish and check out if we are sitting comfortably or however we find we are sitting. Just to make sure we're comfortable. And we can come into the present moment, becoming more aware of the body, if it feels balanced, if it feels comfortable. And we can place the hands on the knees or in the lap, however we find is quite comfortable. Just being here now. We don't have to do anything for this time. We're on vacation, on holiday, and we don't have anywhere we need to go for now. We are free in the present moment. And now we can mentally relax the body. I call it a mental massage. Starting from the top of the head, sides of the head, back of the head, giving it the warm, kind attention, like a mental massage, soothing these areas, relaxing them. And we can move the attention to the forehead and the face, around the eyes, around the mouth, relaxing, soothing, giving them this warm attention, allowing them to just relax, to droop. And we can move the attention to the neck, all around it, and give the neck this mental massage of kindness, healing, relaxation. Now bringing to mind the left shoulder, starting at the neck and moving our attention along the left shoulder, giving the left shoulder a mental massage, a nice, deep, relaxing mental massage, allowing any tension in the left shoulder to relax. Now bringing to mind the left arm, starting at the top of the left arm and moving our attention down the left arm, all around it, and giving the left arm right down to the fingertips, giving the left arm this mental massage, soothing it, relaxing it with warmth and kindness. Now bringing to mind the right shoulder, starting at the neck and moving our attention along the right shoulder and soothing it, relaxing it with this deep mental massage. Now bringing to mind the right arm, starting at the top of the right arm and moving our attention down the right arm, all around it, down to the hand and fingers with this soothing mental massage with warmth and relaxation. Now bringing to mind the back, starting just below the shoulders and moving our attention down the back, across and down, as we give a mental massage to the back, this warm, relaxing mental massage, giving special attention to any areas that feel sore or tense. And now bringing to mind the front of the body, starting just below the shoulders and moving our attention down the front of the body from side to side and down, relaxing, soothing, healing with this mental massage. Now bringing to mind the left leg, starting at the top of the left leg and moving our attention down the left leg, all around it, down to the foot and the toes, with this warm, relaxing mental massage. Now bringing to mind the right leg, starting at the top of the right leg and moving our attention down the right leg, all around it, right down to the toes and the feet, relaxing, soothing with this mental massage. And now we can become aware of the whole body sitting here in the present moment, comfortably relaxed, at ease. And we can bring to mind the intention, may my mind develop this warm feeling of friendliness, kindness, loving kindness in this meditation. And we can visualize this place that I mentioned in India, this place on a mountain top, the Vulture's Peak, and we can visualize walking up the long road, leading higher and higher through the large rocks, through the trees on this mountain, until we come to the top of the mountain where there is a stone hut, and we can see the Buddha sitting in meditation outside this hut. And we can approach the Buddha, bow down, usually customarily 3 times, and then sit in meditation with the Buddha. And we can visualize these rays of golden light, of this metta, of this kindness, friendliness, radiating from the Buddha and encompassing us, filling us from head to toe with this really feeling of acceptance, unconditional acceptance, kindness, no matter what, and compassion. And we can get in touch with that feeling. See if that feeling arouses this warm, expansive feeling of friendliness, of metta, in the chest region usually. And we can allow, if we can feel that feeling, allow that warm feeling to expand and expand, so it fills, we feel the whole of our body and mind full with this warm feeling, this feeling of security, of kindness, of peace, of safety, of acceptance. And we can feel the present moment, whatever we're experiencing, we can experience with this warm feeling of friendliness towards it. whatever feelings in the body, whatever feelings happening in the present moment, in the mind, whatever emotions we are having this warm, accepting kindness towards whatever we're experiencing, whether it's pleasant or unpleasant really, not rejecting. Accepting whatever is in the present moment. It's here, it's now. How we deal with that is up to us with this kindness that allows things to settle down, that doesn't cause resistance in the mind, rejection in the mind. We can give this kindness to the body and the mind. It's one of the best medicines for illnesses, for problems in the body and in the mind. And when we become aware of the breath in the body, breathing in and breathing out, we can breathe in this friendliness, this kindness, and breathe out this friendliness and kindness. We can combine the breath and this emotion of friendliness and kindness, breathing it in and breathing it out to the world. And when we do that, the mind can stay with the breath much longer because the feeling makes the breath so much more interesting and attractive. And at the same time, the feeling generally will grow, will intensify as well. This feeling of kindness, breathing it in and breathing out this friendliness. We are safe and secure, breathing it in and breathing it out. And if the mind wanders off, we can remember the Buddha radiating these golden rays of metta, of kindness, friendliness to us, filling us with them. And now, as we're coming close to the end of the meditation, we can share this, radiate this, the feelings that we've developed in the meditation. Maybe some more friendliness, kindness, more peace, more stillness in the mind. And to radiate those feelings, share those feelings with all those who are near to us, wishing them well, wishing that they can have this feeling of friendliness, feeling of safety and security, freedom from anxiety, worry, anger, all these negative mental states. And we can expand that sharing further and further around where we are at the present moment, including all beings, the human beings, animals, insects, all beings, the birds, all those seen beings and unseen beings, things, small things that we don't notice, or beings that are invisible to us. Maybe ghosts, devas, all this. We can keep expanding this sharing of the warm, accepting, kind feeling to all beings. So we keep expanding to cover the whole of this earth and all realms of existence, excluding no beings, excluding nothing in this universe. No limits, no boundaries. Just kindness. And now we can come back to ourselves and just to review the meditation, reflect on the meditation, whether we feel differently, did we feel these feelings of friendliness, metta, kindness, or not? And also, how did these feelings come up? What triggered these feelings? And anything else that we learned from this experience? And we can have the aspiration, the intention to develop more of this friendliness, openness, acceptance of ourselves and others, and to have it not only in our minds, but in our actions and in our speech. And in our minds, we can see come out of the meditation with the Buddha and bow down 3 times and to walk down that mountain again, the Vulture's Peak, down to the valley below. Down past all these big rocks and boulders, trees. And we can anchor that feeling of friendliness, kindness in our minds, in our hearts. So we can remember it any time, particularly when we need it. And now I'll ring the bell 3 times, and if you'd like to come out of meditation, you're welcome to on the 3rd ring. And we can slowly open the eyes and move the body to make ourselves more comfortable. There we are. So, hopefully you found that useful, and it's often, the Buddha often used these really stunning images, very strong images. I was talking about them today. And if we remember Nalagiri, this enraged, maddened, huge elephant bearing down on us with our negative emotions, then we can remember, that can remind us of this metta, the metta of the Buddha, this kindness and friendliness of the Buddha. Today I was remembering, I was talking to people about all these images that the Buddha used. We call them similes, but the one I was mentioning today, they're so useful because what they do is they capture the mindfulness. They remind us. If we can remember that image, and some of them are unforgettable. And the image, I think somebody asked me about it. Yes, it was. Yes, she did ask about it. Every being, the Buddha said, every being is born with an axe in their mouth, but a wise being doesn't use the axe. Isn't that a brilliant saying? Because our speech can be so cutting, so hurtful, and people, we can't take it back. As much as we may like to, we can't take it back. And so this is these images, whether it be Nalagiri, the axe in the mouth, another image the Buddha used for reminding us loving kindness was if if our limbs, our arms and our legs were being cut off by bandits, and he says if we were to, if a state of ill will or hate or anger were to arise, we would not be practicing the Buddha's teaching. Wow, is that possible? But just to think of that, and the point of that image is that when we remember it, no matter what somebody's done or said to us, we think, at least they're not cutting my limbs off. And so it's a very extreme image. He used lots of them. And of course, another one that I like very much is that how do we repay our parents? And he says, just imagine you're carrying mum on one shoulder and dad on one shoulder, and you're carrying them around. They're going to the toilet. You're feeding them, massaging them, doing everything for them. And you were to do this for 100 years. He said, you would still not have repaid your parents. Just these images. And of course he talks about how we repay our parents through establishing them. If they're stingy, in generosity. If they don't have any faith, to develop the faith. And if they have no wisdom, to develop wisdom. And also to develop, if they're immoral, then to develop them, to encourage them to develop morality, ethical conduct by body, speech and mind. So these images, very, very useful for reminding us, bringing up mindfulness. Yes, Nalagiri. Yes, Nalagiri's in the head at the moment. And then, to bring up this kindness. So this can be very useful. So, if there are any questions or comments or complaints in the hall.
Thank you so much, Ajahn. We'll just do a quick...
Thank you. What makes the difference between a monk like, say, Ajahn Brahm,
yes,
or a normal monk?
Yeah.
Is it because they've been meditating so long or so deeply, or they've got good karma from their past lives, or what's that difference?
Difference, yes. Well, I think the difference, of course, is, there is some good karma too, that enables us to come to this life with some good qualities. And you do see some people with some really stunning qualities. Actually, you think, wow. And Ajahn Brahm is a very good example, because his first meditation retreat, he got very, very deep meditation straight away, and that encouraged him to become a monk. And so other monks too, they have qualities that they can develop, whether it is kindness, whether it's really wisdom, investigating things, and clarity in the mind. So all these qualities enable us to develop the Buddhist path. But of course, a big difference can be if somebody has actually realized the teachings, and then the clarity can be really very exceptional. They're very clear, and they embody qualities of a mind that's developing the path to enlightenment. So the closer, the more that a monk or a nun has realised the teachings, the more they're able to benefit, benefit themselves and others too. Ajahn Brahm is exceptional. If you think all his monks should be like him, or all the nuns that are associated with it should be like him, you're in for a surprise, because they're not. He is really gifted, and oftentimes people say he must have come from a Brahma realm, and his name is Ajahn Brahm, Brahma Vangso. So it's the lineage of Brahma. So a lot of it's what we bring to this life, and those qualities, but also what we develop in this life. And of course, the reason why the teachings from somebody who has seen the Dhamma, realized some of the teachings of the Buddha, is because they have a clarity of view. They can express the important first stage in the path, really, is having right view, we call it, a view that's in accord with reality. And so this is the power of somebody who's enlightened to some degree. 4 stages of enlightenment, and the first stage, stream entry, is when somebody sees through this idea of a view actually it is, of a permanent I, me and myself in here, and they understand that life is flowing due to causes and conditions, and it's a process of cause and effect. And they also understand, they don't have a doubt about the path that the Buddha taught, because they've seen it for themselves. And also they understand that a lot of the things we do in life, we think they're going to lead to enlightenment, or they may lead to this to this enlightenment that we are looking for, but they're in actual fact not. They're not leading there, because we've seen for ourselves this path leads there. And so then we have unshakable confidence in the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. You think, yes, he was enlightened. I've experienced this myself. And also the teachings are verified by my experience, and that the Sangha, some of the practitioners, have realised the Dhamma. And then, of course, it goes to the next stage of enlightenment, which is the once returner, and they reduce the negativities in their mind, desire and ill will, And then the third stage is non-returner, anigami. Once returner means they can return to this sort of world, the human world, the sense world. A non-returner is not returning to a human world again. This is the third stage of enlightenment. If they pass away in that stage, then they will go to a very refined state of existence. We call them heavenly existence. They call it the pure realm. Sounds great, doesn't it? Sudavasa. And so they are free of greed, of desire, and of hate, of ill will, all those things. But they still have some imperfections still. There's still restlessness. There's still attachment to these incredible states of deep meditation. There's still some ignorance in the mind. And there's still a touch of conceit, which means that conceit in Buddhism is like a sense of self that is very, very faint, but it's comparing ourselves, thinking we're better than somebody else, or worse than somebody else, or the same. And then the fully enlightened being, they have given all that up, and they are flowing with existence. They're not separated from existence at all. The sense of ego is not there for them. And they can finish, because finish with being reborn again and again. That's the aim, really. It's a long way down the track. And it's only possible when we have purity of mind and also wisdom to understand we've done this many, many times before. So that's a long explanation of the differences between each of us. It's the difficult differences in the Buddha mentioned faculties, the qualities that we have of faith, of energy, of mindfulness, of samadhi, the mind coming together, and wisdom. These faculties, we differ in them, and that's the difference between monks, nuns, lay people too, lay men and lay women. You can see some with very, very good qualities, outstanding qualities. So, yeah. So I hope that answered it. I don't know if you want to come back and say, but... No. But we're very blessed to have Ajahn Brahm, I can tell you. He's a real inspiration, for myself and others. Yes. Are there any questions online, Langdon?
There are, Ajahn. Thank you. The first question was asked right at the start of the guided meditation, and I think your whole guided meditation was in a way an answer to the question.
Good night.
But you may still want to comment. The question was, can we reduce thoughts of ill will through meditation? And if they still arise, how can we remove them? Right.
So ill will is that negativity in the mind, that's fault-finding, irritation, annoyance in the mind. And of course, if we develop these emotion of kindness, friendliness, that really should subdue these feelings of ill will, irritation, because our minds really can only accommodate one emotion at a time. Sometimes they can change very quickly, but when we have this kindness and friendliness in the mind, then ill will is almost impossible to have, really. And also when we use wisdom, we reflect on this ill will, and then we realize this is so unpleasant for us, no matter how justified we may think it is. And we can develop the wisdom that the things outside of ourselves, the people, what they say and they do, are just triggers. But this emotion is in us. And when we have ill will towards others, there's a very good image that it's not from the Buddha. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. But we're the ones that die. We're the ones really getting the pain. The difficulty is when we have the ill will. What do you think the difficulty is? When we have ill will towards ourselves. That's hard, when we are very critical of ourselves, when we are disappointed with ourselves. And this is where, metta is so important, this kindness and friendliness for ourselves, because we're so close to ourselves that we can tend to have this, as they say, familiarity breeds contempt. We can be very fault-finding with ourselves and ignore the good qualities that we have actually, and not have this kindness, acceptance of ourselves. So it's a very important emotion to have towards ourselves. And so this can be very, very helpful for letting go of ill will. Yeah. And so that's it.
Thank you, Ajahn. Are there more questions here in the hall?
All righto.
We do have a second question online, but I don't know if you can answer it in 5 minutes.
5 minutes, yes.
It's a two-barreled question. What precisely is meditation? And how does it guide us towards the discovery of true happiness?
Oh, right. Yes. Well, meditation is part of cultivating the mind, isn't it, really? Cultivating the mind in what? In mindfulness, because the Buddha actually talks about the meditation process as starting with right effort, noticing what states of mind we have. If there are negative states of mind, or we develop negative states of mind in particular situations, to avoid those situations, to have sense restraint, we call it, not let the mind get really carried away with it, avoid it. If these negative states of mind develop, then to let go of them if we can. That's tough. Easier to avoid, easier to restrain the mind. And then the third right effort is to develop good qualities. That's what we're doing this evening with the meditation. And then to sustain or maintain those good qualities. And that's right effort. That leads to mindfulness. When mindfulness can become stronger and stronger, the less negative qualities are in the mind. And then it can get really, really strong. And then it can become more and more still. The mind can have this continuous mindfulness. Sometimes they liken mindfulness to a dripping tap, drip, 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 drip. But then as it increases, it's more like drip, 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 and then it becomes a continuous flow in the present moment of this mindfulness. And then it can become very still, and this is called when the mind comes together in deep meditation. And when that happens, then it means that a lot of the negative qualities in the mind have gone. For that to develop, for the mind to get really still, really peaceful in the present moment, they have to have gone. Because what are those things that disturb the peace? And of course it's desires, aversions, or ill will, you could say, negativity, and also tiredness, drowsiness and dullness, and then agitation, and also remorse or regret about what we've done, and doubt. Those things stir the mind up. And when they're gone, the mind can get really peaceful. It can get very still and go very deep. And then from that depth of a deep meditation, we can come out of it, and then the mind is clear. It's got a lot of clarity. It has none of the negative qualities for a time. And then we can use it to see life differently. And how we use it often is just to, if there's been a very deep meditation, we can reflect on that. The fact that in these deep meditations, there was all this happiness and joy in this meditation, that these defilements were missing. In deep meditation, the experience of the five senses is gone, really deep, and the happiness is within. And we also see that, a lot of this wanting and craving and desire and choosing, not in these deep meditations. It's not there. And it was great. It was much better than when we have desire and craving. It's a real disturber of the peace. And so we also see in those deep meditations this sense of I, me and myself, not there. Because in deep meditation you have that the duality of somebody, of the viewer and the viewed, of the observer and the observed, gone. It's just the experience, oneness. And so that can give rise to a lot of understanding about the nature of life. And of course the nature of life, as I always say every week, is the same. It hasn't changed, ever. And that is that everything is impermanent in this world. And it changes, it's unpredictable, unreliable, and transitory. And because of that, we cannot get things to stay the way we want them. People would love to have it to stay forever. I don't know if they really would if they got it, actually. The idea of perfection is it's like that forever. But is that possible? In a world, in a system that's got built-in change, can't do. So that's going to be the nature of our experience, that we will never find that perfection. That we might find things good for a time and want to hold on to them, but they will change by themselves, or we will change. And we see that in our relationships, you often see in relationships people to begin with, this is perfect, we want it to last forever. But after some time, people may grow apart, and it's not forever. And sometimes it changes dramatically the other way. So we can see this impermanence, meaning that this search for perfection that we often spend our lives on is not really possible. We can let go of that one and relax. But also, if everything is impermanent, this I, me and myself, is that permanent? And I say to people, of course, it doesn't mean there's nothing here. Sometimes when you hear the teaching of non-self from the Buddha, people think, well, I don't feel this sort of non-self business. And of course, we have personalities and characters, and those personalities and characters are not permanent. They change. Sometimes we'll see dramatic changes in ourselves and others. Sometimes positive changes, sometimes negative changes. So this is the nature of reality. So that's what meditation is about, cultivating the mind in this mindfulness good qualities. So I hope that answered the person online, and that's 1 minute over. So I think now we can finish at this point, and for those who'd like to, we can pay respects to the Buddha, Dhamma and Sangha. Oh, hello. Yeah.